Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at Unit 4, Day 1. We've been looking at it already for 3 clips before this. We specifically started focusing on using the contextualization to set up decolonization in 10th grade. I just wanted to explain how this is broken down because it's actually a series of 4 videos. 2 of them are more general and 2 are more specific. Okay, the first video, which you may have seen already, is on the actual contextualization tool, specifically why we have contextualization. Look at the description. The next video is the breakdown for the tool, how you can actually pull it apart in color code. Third video is we're going to specifically break it down, focusing on Unit 4, Day 1 for 10th grade. The first 2 videos are basically for any grade, although the third video can help anyone in any grade if they want to understand how to organize for themselves. And the fourth video models how to use a contextualization tool, and that really focuses on 10th grade, Unit 4, Day 1. So again, depending on what you want to see and what you want to do, this little chart will help you on what to watch and when to watch it. And now in this one, we're going to take, as promised, a deeper dive. We're going to show you how to use the tool, with my suggestion to use maybe only parts of the tool to actually analyze a source with the immediate view and the distant view when we take it apart so we can have proper contextualization. So let's see how we would do this. I've broken it down. I've taken the sources. If you go through now, this is a long source. Instead of giving you these whole big pieces, see slide 204, I did slide A and then slide B. See? I took the same source and made it larger, so this way you can actually work using this graphic organizer with the text boxes while you work, and you could say, and you can color code at the same time. So let's see, this is by Trevor Getz. I'm going to go all the way back here to find out about Trevor Getz. He's a professor of history at San Francisco State University, specializes in modern Africa and world history. Cool. While the 20th century be considered a time period of internecine warfare and bitter conflicts, and yes, guys, if you see a word like internecine, you can go to dictionary.com, okay? Or you can try to make an inference, okay? Considered a time period of internecine warfare and bitter conflicts marked by the worst example of human rights violations. Moment of triumph and justice. Low point of humanity that was the Holocaust led to the UN Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. Likewise, tragedy, injustice, imperialism gave way for the struggle of decolonization following the 2 world wars. Here in the document below, Getz discusses the context for decolonization. So we're going to try to work on contextualization. Okay? Let's try this. For decolonization and nationalism. And remember, we're going to highlight purple and pink. So let's try to look for political. How did this great political transformation take place? Oh boy, that's political. Ding, ding. Great formal empires in the 19th, early 20th century collapse. So I have this line, and I'm going to highlight it. Purple. Formal empires in the 19th, early 20th century collapse. Was the collapse of colonialism, domination of the world by a few industrial powers, especially Europe, inevitable? Meaning inevitable, I happen to know, means bound to happen. All of them help us to understand decolonization, and it even gives you a definition of decolonization, the process of which colonies became independent states. Now, colonies breaking away, they're making their own country. Someone makes a country, that's politics. We're going to highlight that purple too. The First World War created cracks in the colonial system for a number of reasons. The large numbers of colonial subjects who fought for Britain, France, Belgium, and Germany were, for the first time, told to shoot at Europeans. So now, if I think about this, it says the numbers of colonial subjects, that's people, meaning who were a subject, they would be like, you're subject to the king, the king's in charge of you. So it's colonies that were in charge of the king. They fought for England, Britain, France, Belgium, and Germany were told to shoot at Europeans. So for the first time, they're being told to shoot at their bosses. Now, I am specifically going to highlight Britain, France, and Germany. I'm going to highlight this as political because they're being told to shoot at the person who's usually in charge. See, it helps them break down the racial hierarchy of colonialism. In those days, there were race rules, and when the way it fit in, that's who was in charge, meaning the white man was in charge. It says they served their empires well. However, when they returned home at the end of the war, it was broken promises and poverty. So when they return home, that's to a different place. I'm going to put that as geographic because they're going back to where they came from. Okay, no, that it looks like no, that's the right color. Okay, now before I go further, we have distant is, we're going to have, it says that it's empires of 19th and early 20th century. So distant geopolitical forces, we're going to say that they were colonial empires, meaning places that ruled colonies during the late 1800s, early 1900s. Notice I'm rephrasing. I don't want to use the words of the source. It says process by which decolonization is the process by which colonies become independent states. I highlighted that for myself, but I don't know if I want to put that in to the actual source. Let's also see here, Britain, France, and Germany were told to shoot at Europeans. So colonists were told to shoot at other Europeans. We're actually not told to shoot. Let's not use their language again. I'm falling into my own trap. Colonists were ordered to fight with Europeans, which was a new concept. New concept meaning, and I'll put this in parentheses, they were not used to, they were taught that the white imperial, meaning the ruling powers were supreme. When they returned home at the end of the war, that's immediate view, geographic forces came back to their home country, meaning they're going to a different place, and reported back about Europe, meaning they're going to talk about how things were going on in Europe geographically, and a different place. Hey, it's going on there. Why can't it go on here? Okay, so we have this in the chart. Now let's look at the next piece, source. And notice I broke it in half. This turned many of them against the empire they served. Now we're going back still from this source. We're talking about the people who fought. That is political. If someone turns, they are going to fight with someone. Moreover, okay, the First World War was followed by a massive influenza pandemic. Unfortunately, we all know what pandemic is now, right? Think COVID. Remember when I taught pandemic last year? No one knew what I was talking about. Okay, the massive influenza pandemic, a disease prevalent over a whole country or the world, and the Great Depression. So now, influenza and the Great Depression happen to be socioeconomic, but they cause suffering in the colonies. That I'm going to put up as political, meaning the colonies are suffering. Inhabitants into these colonies turned to the empire to help them to recover, but the imperial powers could not cope. That's political, but I don't want to highlight so much. The imperial powers could not, dreadful experiences, imperial powers could not cope. I'm going to highlight that purple because they weren't able to handle their colonies. On top of that, people began to question the competency, meaning if they're capable. They began to question the superiority, which I already discussed in the last slide, the attitude that the white colonists had that they were better. Okay. The Second World War widened the cracks. Empires turned to colonial subjects to help, and millions were forced or volunteered to serve geographically. They are going back across the world. They're going to Europe. They're being exposed to a very different situation. Okay. So now let's try to put this back into the chart here. Political forces. World War I made colonized peoples angry at their imperial, or you want to say their mother country. I know I have a typo. I need to fix it. Typing this real time. Okay. And what else could we do? Mother country. Europeans could not help their colonies during crises. You can write even during the Depression and the flu. Crisis or mini crisis or crises. Okay, people, as we discussed already before, questioned why Europeans fought. a good rule. And we're better. And notice I'm not using the word superior, I'm saying better. And then geography, I would say European, let's see, right from that phrase again on the bottom, European countries use their colonies to provide soldiers for World War II, exposing them to new places. Ideas, which would be ideological, but we're going to let it go in there. Now, just by the way, this is nice and big. I want to be able to actually see it and remember what I did. So I'm going to make the font a little smaller. Okay, you can make it a little bigger. It's a comfort thing, whatever you're comfortable with. Notice this is immediate. I don't have that much on distant, but I did break down part of the source. You can keep breaking this down on your own now. And you're going to find a little more on distant view, a little bit more on the immediate view, and it's going to keep explaining what went on and how, again, I broke up the slide for you, how you can, again, categorize immediate, distant, political, geographic. You're going to do it all the way to the end of the source, which is from Trevor Getz, Decolonization and Nationalism. It's from Passport, as you know, that's where we got this slide from originally. And you're going to break it down. When you have it all broken down and all of these purple and pink boxes filled in, you're going to go back, look at what you wrote in your own words, and you're going to bring it together to synthesize it. You're going to bring it all together, but you're only going to take relevant information. I mean, you're going to take information that actually makes sense to answer the question from the contextual information, immediate, distant views, and it's going to include kind of a combination of all the forces as well as immediate and distant. You're going to craft it into a paragraph. Remember, a paragraph is, let's say, 5 sentences is probably where you want to be, a little more, a little less, where you're going to use your own words. Remember, you're going to cite, you got this from Getz, and you're going to explain yourself, bring it all together. And again, you could use other categories, as we mentioned, but you probably don't want to go in a bunch of different directions. You want to talk, as writing this, I would probably go with, say that, some political, I'd say some political, then geographic. I would say political, and then if you want to do immediate and distant, if you're going to do that, I would probably go with distant first. Hope this helps. You could probably write your paragraph. This takes some practice. Your teacher's going to step you through this step by step by step, but don't worry, you got this. You can watch the video again, pause it. Remember, whatever you do, just slowly, carefully reread, think, and don't forget to break things down into smaller pieces.